and welcome to BFBS's The Rugby Breakdown Podcast. We're back again, this time remotely. What a treat we have in store for you this weekend, and here's a little sneak peek of what to expect.
And Lamont does it again!
Gilmore on the left wing, it's another Army try, a fantastic response from the red shirts. Williams-Morris, can she get there? It's a brilliant try.
And here come the Army again. Oh, there's a try. And it goes, and it's Josh McNally. And the RAF have got themselves on the ball. And surely that is it. The referee's whistle concludes the inter-services.
It's been an emotional day for each of those players in this tantalising inter-service decider here in Gloucester.
Well, we're remote this time, JJ. We've been in different parts of the country doing numerous various things, I guess, as well. How have you been?
Yeah, all good, as you say. We'll get the full array of different podcast styles. So in the radio studio, in the podcast studio, and now remote. So yeah, we're giving everyone a little taste of everything.
Absolutely, yeah. And I guess in a way, do you feel a bit sad that it's finally here, the final game for both the men and the women this weekend at Kingsholm?
It certainly is a bit sad. I always say it's over sometimes before it starts, and you just kind of get going, and you reach that obviously amazing day at Twickenham, and you're thirsty for more. You don't want it to stop.
Kingsholm, the grand setting, I guess, for what will be a brilliant women's match first up. Winner takes all. We know that the Army and the RAF women's sides are both gearing up to try and win that trophy. And in the men's, Army and the RAF, having both lost to the Navy, and we'll touch on the Navy's success in a little while, both looking for that elusive win so far, or elusive certainly this year for them.
Yeah, it's a big one in terms of neither side will want to finish the tournament winless, and I think both teams will feel that they'll have something to prove on the day when it comes to the men's game. But oh my gosh, what a decider we got in the women's game! And I tell you what, you can't pick them. You just cannot pick them. I think
brave man to do that.
The RAF. A super brave man to pick a winner. So who are you picking, Si?
No pressure at all. This is the hot seat, is it? I like how you just switched that and turned it on me there, JJ. Yeah, it's brilliant. I guess looking at the roads that both sides, starting off with the women's match, which will be first up again in Gloucester, as we saw in Northampton, all the way around at Twickenham. But looking at that women's encounter, the Royal Air Force having beaten the Navy 36 points to 10, I think there was an air of frustration, would you say, JJ, among some of the RAF players, saying that they took a little bit of time to get into gear. They, I guess, were camped on that Royal Navy try line, actually, for so much of the initial phases of that match, and then really got going, certainly in the second half. That first 20 minutes, I think, of the second half in Northampton was brilliant. So 36-10 for them. And the Army, my words, what a demolition job at Twickenham, at Allianz Stadium, Twickenham, seeing off the Navy 96 points to 0, turning into a cricket score by the end, and it could well have been more.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about that before, about how they've got that old school sort of All Blacks mentality about them, and there's no sense of what they have is pure ruthlessness. There's no easing up. The professionalism throughout that squad is unreal. And there is no let up. So it's for sure that RAF are going to have to be at their very best to be competitive in this game. But as we both know, the RAF at their best, they're a match for any team. So that's why it is just flip a coin. It's so hard to predict kind of a game. And there is game winners in both teams. So it's just going to be such an exciting watch. I'm so fascinated to see how the game unfolds on Saturday, and I think it's so great that the games are all now played in these elite stadiums on these elite pitches that allow these teams to express themselves in such an impressive manner. And we know that the RAF are going to try and play that expensive game, but the Army certainly not. Yeah, they certainly can play that game too. The only thing that I say is the Army tend to be able to mix their game plan a little bit more than perhaps the RAF can. But as I say, when the RAF get going, they're pretty unstoppable. The one thing that I definitely will predict is tries. There's going to be lots of tries in that game. There's so many game winners, so many expansive players that the score. I predict a high score, I predict it to be tight, but I expect high scores.
Tight and high. I think you're right. I think, we've had this weather for quite a while now, this lovely sunshine. And this jouer rugby, of course, to bring that phrase back in, JJ, one of your favorite things to say, of course. Yeah, I think it's going to be a high scorer too. I think that what's interesting about that Allianz Stadium Twickenham performance from the Army, we know how good their back three is, and we'll touch on that in a little second. And we know how expansive, you say, the RAF women like to play. But what was amazing for me was the offload game from the Army forwards. And the swan dive game as well from Sarah Batley when she went over for that try. It's always great when you see the likes of Ashy, Chris Ashton back in the past with his fantastic sort of ash splash as we talk about. But seeing a prop do it, JJ, that sets the world alight.
It does, even though, like, I'll tell you what, it's always nervy when you see them. Like, those viral clips. I think it was the French player in the rugby sevens that massive swan dive, and then you see the ball just come out of his hands in slow mo of the expression of his face. So it's always a risky thing to do, and especially as a forward. But yeah, it was good to see that it actually paid off.
Yeah, and the game, as we touched on there, the offload game with the forwards and players, no matter whether forward or back, always having a player on either shoulder in support, which I thought set them apart, from the Navy in that game greatly. And it was just so impressive, as you say, that they switched between modes and led incredibly well by Jade Mullen. And we saw those posters, didn't we, at Allianz Stadium, those Captain Fantastic banners, not least lifted at the end when Jade Mullen hoisted the trophy.
Yeah, and I pointed her out as my person to watch before the game on the preview pod, and the reason for that, it shone through on the day, and we spoke about that ruthlessness and that professionalism, and it all starts and stems from her. She is one of the most professional rugby players you will find. There is no weakness in her game, and her mindset, it shines through, and it then spreads amongst the team. There's a level of confidence you have when she's on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And mirroring that, when you look at how well led the Royal Air Force is by Lucy Nye, scrum half, absolutely fantastic leader as well. And you look at the professionalism of that side, and having been at their training camps in the weeks leading up to Northampton as well, they've got so much star quality across that team, and it's so closely knit. We talk about that light blue family. They talk about the light blue family. We, of course, mention it in this podcast, that cohesive unit that they have and how much they go out to bat for each other, if you excuse the cricket phrase. It's a wonder to see. And interesting, of course, at this stage, whether they will have the likes of Sarah Bonner and Amy Cockayne, international stars, playing this weekend.
Yeah, they've got that. They've got to actually wander into the football sense of it. They've got their crazy gangs mentality, the RAF, where they just have to enjoy each other's company so much, and whether it's taking the mick out of Amy Cockayne's slippers and talking about the different songs that they're all interested in. They've got a joy amongst each other. They just enjoy being with each other so much, and that's something again that can show on the pitch sometimes, that when you just love being with people, you're more likely to actually take that extra step, protect them a little bit more on the pitch, and the RAF women always give that sense of how much they just love being with each other, and it's such a great team, for sure.
Yeah, that speed of delivery, I think, will be critically important for the RAF, trying to turn around those very quick defences from the Army. And Lucy Nye's speed of delivery, fantastic passer on both sides of if you like, both shoulders. And it's going to be great. You look at the likes of Jameson Gibson Park you look at some players who've been able to get the game going very quickly. Gibson Park for Ireland over the years, and Leinster. And Lucy Nye has that ability. Obviously, we mentioned that Sevens pedigree in the past too.
You've talked about she can pass so nice off both hands. She's very quick, up to speed with play. She likes getting that quick ball out, and I think that's going to be imperative on Saturday if she can keep on getting that quick ball out and just not slow the game down. I think that the RAF, to have most success, I think they've got to keep that tempo going and as I say, play that sort of RAF style. I'm not going to say the words.
We know the words.
Yeah, play that RAF style, and she certainly will be a linchpin for whether they can keep that up for the whole 80 minutes. But she is a complete scrum half, and and she knows how to get through a tackle herself, whether she wants to take it up. She knows how to snipe. So yeah, she might be the most important player on the day, to be fair. Whether it's that, because that tempo is going to be so imperative.
It is. We mentioned both back threes having had brilliant games against the Navy, and we, I guess, often reflect on the attacks. But in defence, the RAF have their work cut out, I think, with the way that Charlotte Tweddle, Hannah Gilmore, and Courtney Pursglove played against the Navy. And you look at Hannah Gilmore and Courtney Pursglove in particular in that match, the way that sort of silky running, they're able to get into spaces that people didn't necessarily know had existed several seconds prior, and they're able to snipe and find those areas and accelerate. You know, that turn of pace is going to be critically important for the RAF to close down very quickly.
You know, I'll go back to all the stuff that my dad used to install in me in minis. You know, they can't run at you if you get to them first. So I think that whole press defence is going to be a critical factor on the day, and just making sure there's no doglegs, no space up here, but pushing up very quickly on the Army. And to be fair, the RAF did that pretty well against a Navy in the first game. The defence was smothering of the Navy in that first game. The only thing that let them down on the day was just not converting chances in that first half. But I think they'll feel that they could have set a very similar score line if they took all their chances as what the Army had with the Navy. But the Navy defence was very good at Northampton. So, but I just think it's going to be a case of they're going to have to keep that smothering defence up, make sure they get to those runners before they get that open space, and making sure they all come up as a team. Like, the moment that you leave that dogleg, they're gone. Like, you leave Courtney to go, she's gone. She is gone.
Absolutely. And territorial-wise, territorially, both teams are very smart. You know, you mentioned Courtney Pursglove and with the boots, and Daisy Fahey, player of the match from the first game, that RAF Navy game at Northampton. And of course, both ends, we mentioned Jade Mullen, but Sarah Graham-Jenkins as well. It was pivotal in that first match, that win over the 36-10 win for the RAF over the Navy. So, they can't afford to snooze off in the backfield.
No, and I don't think they will. They just don't have that mindset in terms of. I don't think either team will switch off in those positions and those back three positions. I don't think they're going to switch off necessarily defensively. I think what it is a case of this is going to be a bit of a war of attrition. It's going to be a hot day. There's going to be, well, hopefully a hot day. It's going to be a big pitch.
It is well, the forecast, if it's correct, we know in this country
the forecast
not,
is good,
but yeah.
Let's keep the fingers crossed. So I think it's going to be a case of fitness is going to play a critical factor. Whether it's any knocks going into the game or knocks on the day could play a key part, because these teams, like I say, it's a wafer thin piece of paper between them in terms of skill set. So I don't see any switching off in mentality, but there are just those X factor players on both teams that can evade a tackle very easily. It's not going to be a case of concentration, but I do think that hot day, big pitch, it could be who's the fittest on the day that ends up being victorious.
Yeah, and those packs, Lauren Brooks, player of the match against the Navy at Allianz Stadium, Twickenham. Fantastic performance from her. And we saw how Ella Johnson played, Annie Forbes as well in that back row for the Royal Air Force. Those back rows, those packs in general, are going to bring a very, very physical game. So I think right across the pitch, as you allude to, we're in for a real treat. And a brave man, JJ, to call it, I think.
Yeah, that's why I'm not going to.
Very, very wise. And we had the IDRC draw during that match as well. Just to touch on that as we look a little bit further ahead and mention, of course, that event just before the two matches at Allianz Stadium, Twickenham. And extremely exciting year for women's rugby. We had a phenomenal women's Six Nations. And looking ahead to the Women's World Cup in the autumn. Just before that, between this inter-service competition and the Women's World Cup is, of course, the International Defence Rugby competition, the Women's Military Rugby World Cup, if you like. And the draw was made. We'll have a little look at that now.
We're now going to look ahead to another major moment in Forces Sport this year. The International Rugby Defence Competition is going to be an absolute cracker on these shores, filmed over the course of 3 weeks. Multiple venues, 8 of the very best women's international military rugby sides going head-to-head at multiple venues over that time. UCAF, the hosts, will be in Pool A, with France, the defending champions, in Pool B. And we'll now have a look at the other sides and who'll be joining them in those respective groups. And we're honoured to be joined today by the chairman of UK Armed Forces Rugby, Air Vice Marshal Ian Townsend, as well as Nick Glidden from the principal sponsor Vodafone for IDRC itself. So, gentlemen, without further ado, take it away, please.
Hello, me.
Thank you very much. Number 5.
Number 5, which is Zambia. They'll be joining UCAF in Pool A.
And number 1.
Number 1, which is Australia, joining France in Pool B.
Number 4.
Number 4, that is Tonga, and they'll be joining UCAF in Pool A.
Number 3.
Number 3, which is Fiji, and they'll be joining France in Pool B.
Number 2.
Number 2, Ireland, and they'll be joining UCAF in Pool A.
And I'm hoping this is the last one. Number 6.
And number 6, we have another side yet to be confirmed. So those are the sides that'll be taking up the pools. UCAF in Pool A, France in Pool B. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic tournament. Host broadcaster BFBS will be live with us throughout the tournament itself. Thanks to you two gentlemen as well. And we look forward to that.
So yeah, just off the back of that, JJ, it's going to be brilliant having it in this country as well. A festival feel. I think the organisers have been wanting to have that celebration of rugby, so to speak, right around the country. And UCAF in Pool A as the hosts, with Ireland, Tonga and Zambia as well. So we're going to see all sorts of different styles of rugby being played. France as defending champions in there with the likes of Fiji and Australia, and waiting for the final team as well to be confirmed, who will be joining them in Pool B. But that's going to be a humdinger of a competition.
The Australian team have already said they're coming over here to win. They are not coming here to make up any numbers. So there's going to be there's lots of confidence already amongst the international teams. But I feel obviously UCAF will, being on home turf, will want to lift this trophy, and with it being in the same year as the Women's World Cup, so to have like essentially the Women's Military World Cup and the Women's World Cup all in the UK.
Brilliant stuff from the Aussies.
Pretty much. Yeah, but the Aussies aren't shy in coming forward. Yeah, no. Fighting talks already started, and I think that's what I can't wait to see. A bit of niggle between the teams, all in best possible fun. But this is a serious competition, and with a serious level of athlete, and they thrive on competition, and this is an extremely big competition for military rugby, and a huge competition for women's rugby. And I'm so excited to be part of the company that's going to be broadcasting all this. We're going to be having multiple live games. We're going to be covering it all for the socials. We're going to have all the behind the scenes, and don't worry, we'll get plenty of that fighting talk from all the sides involved.
There he is, the hype man himself, JJ Bates. Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be great to have those. Just that coverage throughout, behind the scenes as well, and every single possible angle you could wish for. BFBS Forces News bringing it to you. And I think as well, just to touch on before we move on to the men's side of the competition in the inter-services, I think what will be brilliant as well, given the last iteration of the competition was during a COVID year, really, a pandemic affected year, will be the crowds and having home support, as the players have already spoken about, wanting to come out and have that support and have those crowds really getting into the feel of not just that competition, but that build up to the Women's World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. That feel of having the crowds there, the backing, and people coming out. There's multiple sites that they're gonna be holding games, so there's plenty of opportunity for people to come down, and it's about inspiring the younger generation. So it'd be brilliant to see families, see young girls that that show them how great this game is. That show that these strong, powerful, the perfect, in terms of heroes, people to look up to. And trust me, these women are really people to look up to.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating every second of it. And it'll be here in a flash. I know that cliche is used, but it really will be. So very excited for that. And looking ahead to the other huge clash on Saturday at Kingsholm, the Army against the Royal Air Force in the men's competition. And both sides, JJ, looking for that first win this year, having both lost to the Royal Navy. And congratulations to the Royal Navy for a fantastic inter-service campaign and for winning at Allianz Stadium, Twickenham.
Absolutely, congratulations to them. Yeah, I remember we were talking in the preview pod of the whole, having that experience last year of losing in the dying seconds, having that experience against the French team, the Marine Nationale, and losing in the dying seconds there, and how that experience, that if it got down to the dying seconds and it was close, that they'd have something to draw on and say, it's never happening. It's not happening again. And that's precisely what happened when they won that penalty and Gotti kicked it off the pitch. You can imagine the relief that went through the whole team and the scenes there. So 100% complete congratulations to them. And, sort of getting rid of some of the ghosts of the past. I can imagine the relief as well as the joy was in sort of equal measures.
That was fantastic to watch. And we thought, I think towards the end of it, and I was pitch side towards the end of that match, and I was thinking, is this happening again? Cameron McDonald got that lovely crossfield kick from Jack Johnson. Your namesake, JJ, of course, for the Army, across the field, Cameron McDonald scores. People are probably thinking, surely not. 2 years in a row, the Army snatching this and winning in the last seconds of the game. But as you say, the Navy held their nerve, and I think they brought that physicality through the match, and they just managed to keep that composure. What a game, and what a performance from player of the match, Sam Matavesi.
Well, yeah, I mean, what an amazing performance. We can talk about I think we spoke about the Army pack before the game, but really the Navy pack just stood up in that game and really showed what that game meant to them. And I think it was a scrum on I think it was around 56 minutes, and they just shoved that Army pack back and won the penalty for the kick, and it was just a real marker for the game. And it's when that kind of sense of feeling of we've got this goes through a team, and that just seemed like a key moment of the game. But what a game! Do you know what? It just never fails to deliver, does it? It's end to end. You sort of felt, oh, actually, the Navy started off in terms of that factor of getting off to a bad start. So it was kind of like the opposite of last year. That try after 5 minutes for Nyolo, and then it wasn't long until he got his second. I'll tell you what, his second try was amazing. But the Army got off to the quick start, and then it just went back and forth, and it just never fails to deliver. And so I'm looking forward to Saturday in terms of, as I say, both teams will not want to finish winless, so it's gonna be a battle in Gloucester for sure.
It really is, and requiring something, as you say, with that incredible clash at Allianz Stadium, requiring someone really to take the bull by the horns, so to speak. And Matavesi's performance and that try he scored and his celebration as well, I thought was absolutely beautiful to watch.
Pure joy. He loves representing his service so much, and that's what I think this tournament really shows to people. It's how much they love representing their service. And you're talking about an international player who's represented his country, been to Rugby World Cups. He's, been in Premiership finals. He's playing in France and, in the top 14. And yet these people come back to their service and a sense of duty and a sense of calling, and just what makes the inter-services so special.
Yeah, fantastic. And 50,000 people, I think, roughly in attendance at Allianz Stadium as well, which is brilliant, and a reflection, of course, of the quality that we saw on show. And I think the celebrations went on for some time. I imagine they would have anyway for the Royal Navy men. And I think
I can't imagine that.
Can't imagine that. No, I can't imagine sometime.
They're in bed by 10.
Yeah, bed by 10, maybe. Yeah, have the
maybe
odd
hot chocolate.
hot chocolate, just to, a bit of sugar just to celebrate. I think, yeah, absolutely. So great from them. And this Saturday, those two sides, the Army and the RAF, are going to bring. We mentioned with the women's game. I think this game just after the women's match is going to bring a lot of expansive rugby too. And both sides feeling that they have a point to prove, I would say, and both sides frustrated. Obviously, we talk about the Army's frustration, losing out to the Navy, a couple of weeks ago. But the Royal Air Force, speaking before their campaign started about this this new style of rugby they wanted to play, and clearly showing at Northampton through skipper Mark Williams that they were there to play some rugby and find those gaps. His blistering pace to put away Stan Boxall, his scrum half, his halfback partner, was absolutely fantastic. And just maybe that bit of discipline in the end was what led to their defeat to the Navy in Northampton. But this is going to be an absolute humdinger.
It is for sure. I think that first game, the RAF versus Navy, the RAF certainly will feel like they could have won that game, and they could have. I think the key word in that game was composure, and there was just a couple of what they would feel were like silly penalties to give away, and then they kind of just took the wind out of some of the comebacks that looked like they were about to happen. They'll get a try and then kind of give away the penalty, and then the scoreboard just kind of kept on ticking for the Navy. So they'll take a lot out of that first game because of the way they played, and they could have won it. So they just need to work on that composure in sort of key times, and I think that there's a potential there for them. They're such a good team, and you know what? I made that prediction in the first game. Expect tries in this one. You're not keeping
it's a safe enough prediction. I think
team out for sure. Yeah, it's the same kind of prediction. It is for sure. You're not keeping the RAF team. There's too many good expansive players out on a dry pitch in a big rugby pitch. You're just not keeping some of those flyers out. And then likewise, the power that and the depth that the Army team has, you're not going to keep them out. So expect tries.
Absolutely.
Tries for sure.
Yeah, we saw the pace that was brought on. Joe Parkin, when he came on in that Northampton game, not just racing when he got on with the ball, but absolutely sprinting up when it was coming to, chasing up and unders and chasing box kicks forward. He brought a lot of electricity, I thought, to that back line as well. And a word, JJ, on Dave Manning, who, as we know, is skipper UCAF and has captained the RAF side on numerous occasions. Now, of course, skipper is Mark Williams. Dave Manning, 25 inter-service caps, phenomenal achievement reached at Northampton, and just a lovely guy as well, but a colossus when it's come to inter-service rugby, and a real brilliant servant for the RAF, not least in those victories, as we mentioned recently, that podcast talking about 2015 and 2018 when they won the competition.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to keep on coming back again and again, it takes a level of dedication that I think people may find it hard to understand, just because the game is so physical. We see people, retire early. The game is such a physical game, and then obviously being a military rugby player, you've got those other elements that go alongside it. So to keep on coming back year after year, it's just, I can't commend him enough. Just just massive congratulations on him for reaching that 25 and long, hopefully hopefully more to come. But yeah, great servants of the game, and we need these characters to keep on coming back because they're what makes this inter-services what it is.
Absolutely. No, it's going to be a great day of rugby. Where will you be stationed? Because we joked last time when you were at Northampton on the touchline that you were effectively looking like Lewis Bartley, our esteemed cameraman, looking like his personal cameraman, JJ.
I will be running up and down that touchline alongside Lewis, and I will be, I'll be there running along on the day, getting as close to the action as I can, probably annoying a couple of the players as I try and get them to talk off the pitch and before and after potentially. So just getting as much as I can in terms of giving everyone that access on the day.
And where can we find a lot of behind the scenes content from you and also in the lead up as well? Where can we look?
Yeah, follow us on the Forces News socials. So we're Forces News on Instagram, on X, on Facebook. We're on TikTok. You name the platform, we're likely to be on it. But yeah, you follow us and there'll be plenty of live posting on the day on X and on Instagram especially.
And also, it's an early start too. Women's match kicking off 11 o'clock. Our coverage beginning at 10:45, BFBS Forces News YouTube channel. So stay tuned, as you say. And we cannot wait for what's going to be a colossal final day. I can't believe it's the end almost of the inter-service this year. What a great run we've had. And yeah, we're going to bring you plenty of great stuff on Saturday.
For sure. It's good. We've got a decider.
We have indeed. Look forward to joining you.